Welcome to How to Ruin Your Own Reputation, the show where I talk to people who either have unique jobs or are living lives that some people just don't understand. And they do it unapologetically. My guest today describes himself in a way that I can really relate to, which is radically honest. Mike Joseph is the Detoxpodguy on Instagram and also the host of the podcast Detoxicity, where he discusses progressive masculinity and also tackles the question of what does it mean to be a man in the 21st century? Good friggin' question. Mike is also a mental health coach and a sexuality instructor. So let's just jump right in. Hello, Mike. Are you ready to ruin your reputation with me?
I can't imagine there's much left to ruin, but I am ready to go for it.
It's funny. Most of my guests have that feeling when they come on too. They're like, I've already done it a few times.
Yeah.
What's another time? I like the company. So it seems like the natural first question would be, what is it like to be a man in the 21st century? But I think that would really depend on who you ask.
100% depends on who you ask. What it means to be a human in the 21st century is more, there are more explanations for that than anyone has ever thought of at any point in time. And I think really the point of the podcast and the point behind a lot of what I do is that things are nowhere near as binary as we once thought they were, whether it's in terms of masculinity versus femininity, whether it's in terms of sexuality, whether it's in terms of race, whether it's in terms of ethnicity. Like everything has nuance to it. And I think again, like you said, what it means to be a man, it depends on who the man is. So I think we all have our own individual stories. And I think part of what I do with Detoxicity is highlight the storytelling part of it and have people talk about their own lives.
Isn't it strange how it would seem to be so freeing and liberating, the idea that there are so many different ways to be everything, like you said, just as a human being. The thought that we can do that any way we want is so amazing and yet terrifying to a lot of people. I mean, there's so many people who love the binary. Like no, it's good. Like they don't want too many choices of anything. Like they like to know, oh, this is this way and that's that way. And if they're not comfortable with anything else, they don't want anything else.
The binary is safe.
Right.
And
it's safe. It's safe for the people that fit into it perfectly.
Yes.
But if you don't, then it's anything but safe, right?
But I think also safe for the people who don't fit into some people who don't fit into that binary, because when you're taught that it's X or Y, one or two, A or B, knowing internally that you are neither A nor B or neither X nor Y, it can be really confusing and it can be really unsettling in a world that really rewards kind of being Stepfordish and falling in line and being easy to identify. So I think some people are just freaked out by the thought of having to figure themselves out. So they push themselves into a binary that they don't believe in.
It's funny because I think it's so what you're saying. I'm really hearing that, because I think what happens also is, I think when people feel like they have to be a certain way, and that's the way that they've been their whole life, and they tell themselves, well, this is the way it's supposed to be. I think when they see that, oh my God, wait, there's another option, right? Then it's harder for them to be happy where they are, because they realize, oh God, maybe there's something out, and they want to see what that other thing is, but they don't feel like they can. So I think it makes them upset to see other people kind of living their lives the way that they want to, and feeling they probably would like to, but they can't. So it's having those other choices that could be frustrating.
Yeah, absolutely. I spent a lot of my life trying to be one thing, and it is scary and a little, I was a little envious when I saw other people living their full, complete lives. But what that did for me is it motivated me to be more myself. And I think for some people, just the idea of being themselves and potentially losing the things that they hold dear, whether it be a job or family or whatever it is, I think that idea is so scary that they fold themselves back into this little box and kind of stuff what makes them unique into a corner of a closet and leave it there.
Well, it's sort of like picking what you're going to lose. Either you leave the potential, because they don't know for sure, right? That they're even going to lose those things, but the potential of living your fullest life as you and maybe losing other things, or not letting yourself be fully you, but still having those other things, which really aren't secure if there's the potential of losing them if you're your full self. So
it
it's
seems so
tough.
like such a, but it feels like such a simple concept. It's like, okay, if someone doesn't love me for who I am, then they obviously don't love me because they don't know me to love me. And logically, it's so easy to explain, but I think when you apply that into actual practice with humans who are ridiculously complex, it becomes this really unnecessary quandary.
Yeah, and I do think it's tough because there are people who really do feel like me. Screw it, fuck it. If they don't like it, that's too bad. But then there are people who don't, who really need the thought. I know people who hide parts of who they are because they're terrified that their family will turn their back on them, and they can't handle that, or that their friends will. And that's okay. Like that's just the way we are. Some people we're just different, but it's sad to me that we can't just let people. And again, that sounds so trite and so simple. Like, oh my God, that was a very pageant answer. Just let people be whoever they want to be. But it really is that simple.
Yeah,
isn't it?
it is. It really is. If we just allowed people to be their fullest, truest selves, I mean, what's the harm to us, right?
Well, exactly. That's what it all comes down to. Giving everyone else rights doesn't take away your rights.
Right.
Like, it's so strange. That's the thing that I will never be able to wrap my head around. Like somebody else's life, they are not doing anyone else harm, but you're doing them harm by not just letting them live their life. It's so backwards to me.
It makes no sense.
So it's one thing to feel this way and to get comfortable in yourself. And it's another thing to build a whole podcast around it so that you can highlight other voices. So tell me more about your personal experience that led to this. And then you're feeling compelled to bring it out to a bigger audience.
I've certainly gone through my own stages of self-discovery. I think first it was being queer, and something that I knew I was when I was a very young child, probably 8 or 9 years old when I first realized that, and really spending decades of my life in fear of people finding out and being judged and being ostracized. And my age sort of puts me right around the time I came out was when AIDS really became a thing. And then there was fear about that. So that was the first part of my journey. Then coming to terms with the fact that I have some mental health issues. I suffered from depression and anxiety. I went into therapy about 14 years ago at the age of 31, when I probably should have done it a decade, if not 2 decades before. But, also sort of feeling like that would stigmatize me. Going to therapy would stigmatize me. Having a diagnosis would stigmatize me.
Right.
And then I guess the third part of that is the fact that I identify as non-monogamous or polyamorous. And all three things still have a huge stigma attached to them. But they were realizations that I made for myself. And as I gradually sort of came out about all three of these things, I realized how freeing it was. I spent so much of my life in the closet about multiple things and having to change my story depending on who was around. And that is, I can't speak for anybody other than myself, but for me, it was mentally taxing.
I was going to say it's exhausting.
Yeah. And it's like, and obviously it leads to trip ups because you can't always keep your story straight when you're telling like 5 different stories to 5 different groups of people. You get drunk or you forget, or like something happens and you're like, then they're like, oh, really?
Who am I? Who am I
again? Yeah. I actually just thinking of an instance when I was probably in my mid-20s at this time, and I had a friend stay over, and I had gone out and left him there, and he was under the guise of doing some cleaning. He went in my closet and found some of my erotica. And he was like, oh, I didn't know that about you. And in retrospect, I'm like, he was cool about it, but also I could have saved all the drama by just being straight. If I like you enough to have you sleep over at my house, you should probably know that I'm queer.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think it's also, I always say that there's the amazing thing too, is we keep these things, because I do too with so many things. We keep these things hidden because we're so afraid that it's going to, if we tell the truth and we talk about who we are, we talk about the things that make us who we are, that it's going to maybe isolate us from people, when in reality, once you do that, you sort of find your people. Once you do that by the polyamory, the queerness, the mental health issue, I mean, you are so not alone with any of that. We know that. So it's once you say it, it's actually the opposite, where all of a sudden you have a bunch of people around you going, me too. So do I. Me too. I get it. And that's huge. I think that's amazing. Right. That's a game changer.
Yeah, it really is. I did a talk over the summer at this event called Polycamp. And one thing I talked about was modeling behavior. And it really is like when somebody walks through the door confidently, all of a sudden, like 20 people like tiptoe behind them and they're like, oh yeah, me too, me too, me too. Where if that first person wasn't open about whatever it is they're being open about, the other people wouldn't have had the courage to step forward and be their truest selves. Unfortunately, our society is a reactive society and not a proactive society, but it takes brave people to really bring these things to the forefront and push for these sort of what people call progressive. But, for every out queer person, for every mental illness challenged person, for every out poly or non-monogamous person, there's 5 people who are in the closet or still figuring this shit out. So it's not so progressive when you consider how many people are probably actually thinking along the same lines that you are. Are just not open about it.
Well, it's funny you say that, because when I started the show, there are things that I talk about, whether it's polyamory, open marriages, so many different things. And it's funny how I will get messages afterwards from people who will tell me, okay, people don't know this, but either they do it or they've thought about it or they're looking into it, and it's like, so it's exactly what you're saying. For everyone who's saying it, there are other people who are thinking about it or who want to do it. And they just need that. They need to see that it's okay. Yeah. They need to see that their feelings are valid and that there's nothing wrong and they're not crazy and they're not weird, that it's actually a lot more normal. And all of it. It doesn't matter what we're talking about. It's probably a lot more normal than people think.
It really is. I mean, I am certainly someone who has been reactive as opposed to proactive in a lot of those situations. I didn't start going to therapy until a good friend of mine was like, hey, Mike, I go to therapy. I didn't come out as poly until I'd met a couple when I was living in Boston who was younger than me and polyamorous and open and quote unquote normal. And I was like, oh, so these people it's not this idea I have in my head of these like weird people like Mr. and Mrs. Roper on Three's Company or whatever, like, and it normalizes it for you. And then you can picture yourself in that situation and it gives you the confidence to move forward.
Now, you talk about progressive masculinity. Tell me what that is. I know what toxic masculinity is.
It's the opposite. It really is about a lot of things. I think it's about unlearning a lot of the stuff that we, not just men, have been taught about men over the course of our lives. It's about vulnerability. It's about openness. It's about not being the typical like alpha male stereotype, because I think that's damaging. And again, like the tagline of the podcast is by men, about men, but for everyone. And the reality is that patriarchy, toxic masculinity, doesn't just affect men. It affects women practice toxic masculinity as well. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And obviously, if you're a man and you bring children into this world, it's going to affect your children, but it affects the way that you are, affects everybody in your circumference. So if racism doesn't just affect Black people, homophobia doesn't just affect queer people. So toxic masculinity doesn't just affect men or male identified people. It affects everybody. And I think there just needs to be, over the course of my life, I have certainly seen great strides into what is sort of allowed for men, but there's still a whole lot of work to do.
Oh, yeah. I mean, if you look up sort of what the definition of toxic masculinity, a lot of it says it's very dangerous it's against women and homosexuals, right? Because that's the thing. I mean, you're acting like a girl or you're acting gay or whatever. That's the whole thing. But I've said this before, but I think a lot of people hear the term toxic masculinity. A lot of men will hear that and they think it's a criticism of them. They think it's a put down to them when it's not. It's actually when we say that we want to break down toxic masculinity and get rid of it, it's actually, God, this is another thing that's going to sound so, I don't know, but it's a gift. I don't know, but it's like a gift to men because it's hurting men. Yes, and as a result, it's damaging to everybody else. But listen, women want men to get their shit together too. Like women want men to feel their feelings and have an outlet and ask for help and get the help they need and feel supported and get rid of the stigmas. We want that for them.
Right.
I mean,
Word.
that's the thing. So it's not, I've heard it so many times. It's a feminist. Oh, all these feminists. It's not. We want the men in the world to be healthy and to be happy. And it's doing a disservice to men by not allowing them to be, like we said, full people, to be full men, that they have to only show one side to the world and hide. And it's a perfect segue to something that you had posted. It was a stat that you had posted months ago that I think is really important. I'm going to read it because you said young men who strongly support harmful masculine norms are more likely to suffer from suicidal thoughts. We'll explain that because that's important.
I don't remember the exact statistic, but one thing I actually read recently is that while men and women attempt suicide at about the same rate, men complete suicide at a dramatically higher rate than women do. And I think there are a few different reasons for that. But when society tells you, when your parents tell you, when your church tells you, you can't feel, you can't express emotion, you can't express confusion, you can't cry, boys don't cry. You can't do things that are considered feminine, or that means loving another man is wrong. And that's a whole other situation where I think some men are able to actually justify having sex with men, but not able to justify being intimate with men. Anyway, when you're prohibited from doing all this stuff, like that repression doesn't resolve itself.
Right.
It doesn't go away. You internalize it and it builds.
Yeah.
And it comes out in really like messed up ways. It can come out in being physically abusive to your partner or your kids. It can come out in just being like a rageful, anger issue laden human being. And a lot of times people take it out on themselves. And that's what ultimately I think leads to a lot of suicide, just people not being able to resolve the need that they have to express feelings that are buried deep inside. So instead of going for help, instead of talking to whomever and being open with them, they're like, you know what, this world isn't meant for me. This world would be a better place without me. I don't know why I'm here. And they take themselves out.
It's crazy that there's so much talk about self-care. I mean, it's such a buzz term now, but I mean, at the very right, but at the very base of it, self-care is taking care of just how you feel in your brain, and the fact that there's still stigma, probably more with men than with women, to seek help, to go to a therapist. But that's the biggest shame, because God, we all need someone to talk to. And it's like you said, the fact that you're told you shouldn't feel this way. It's like when you're in a really shitty mood and someone goes, cheer up. It's like, okay, feel better now. Thanks. That's all I did.
Yeah, really. Just said those words. Yeah, exactly.
I didn't think of that. I just had to cheer up. And it's the same thing. And it's worse because what you're doing is you're sucking it up, and it's still there. It's just doing so much damage. And that's why it does come out as anger. You know, you will be shitty to the people in your house, or you will take it to another level. But I think people don't really, anger is an emotion too, you know, but men are allowed to feel anger. You know, it's such a weird, because it seems manly, like it's so weird. And that's awful. Like that's an awful thing, that like anger and aggression, and that's manly. Like there's a bit of a problem with that.
Totally. I think if you polled 100 people and you ask them what emotion is most commonly associated with men, anger or aggression would be at the top of the anger, aggression, violence. Those would be the three things at the top of the list. And whether that violence is enacted externally or internally, if it's done in a way that's not constructive, it's going to be bad. It can be land you in jail bad. It can be get you a restraining order bad. It can be have long-term health issues bad. It can be die by suicide bad. So not to say that inherently those emotions are unhealthy, But I think when
No.
they're internalized and allowed to sort of build and swell up over time, then they become very unhealthy.
For sure. I think it's like anything. I mean, anger, I think anger gets a bad rap. I mean, I think it's normal to feel angry. I think it's okay to feel angry. I think you should. Sometimes it's a respect to us if you feel angry over a situation or angry over something that happened to us or angry over something that someone did. Yeah, it's okay. It doesn't make you a bad person to feel or have a right to feel angry. But if you're only feeling angry or if you're taking every other emotion and turning it to anger, like anything else, if you feel sad all the time, listen, you have to feel sad because the world is a freaking dumpster fire. But but if you only feel sad, that's a problem. And the same thing with happy. Oh my God, those are the most terrifying people. If you're only happy, then you're a sociopath.
People who are happy all the time worry me.
Right. Because you can't be.
Yeah.
It's just and that's exactly when you kind of have to worry. So to have every emotion in its place, and of course sometimes you're going to feel one more than the other. That just kind of happens.
Yeah.
But I think, that whole thing about men and feeling anger, and it's not how we're born. It's not how they're born. I mean, babies cry. It doesn't matter what gender you are. I mean, we all do. And at some point it just becomes that man up kind of thing. Stop being a pussy kind of thing. It's just, and that is damaging to everyone. Do you think, this is going to be totally on an individual basis, but do you think men, and I wonder if this is different. I will get the question out, I promise.
Take your time.
It's probably different, I'm guessing, with straight men and gay men. Easier for men to open up to their female friends than their male friends, or vice versa?
I think it depends.
Yeah.
And I don't even think it's a universal thing when it comes to sexual orientation, which is such like a mixed bag anyway. Me personally, I find myself easier to open up to men. I don't know why that is. It just is. All my therapists have been men. Most of my close friends are men. The reason I do this podcast is because of that. I know a lot of guys who are uncomfortable opening up around other men because it's some kind of like pissing contest where if you express vulnerability, all of a sudden you're the weak link and people are going to pick on you. Maybe that's like a throwback or a callback to people who were bullied when they were younger. But I think it depends. I mean, I'm very fortunate to have a group of friends, most of whom, believe it or not, are straight, who are open about their emotions with other men, and we kind of lean on each other. But I know that a lot of people, maybe in smaller towns or less progressive places than New York City, don't have that, or most likely don't know where to find it.
Do you think social media plays a role in making things harder or easier?
I think when it's used properly, social media makes it easier. I think about my own personal journey and how I found community, and a lot of that community has been initiated or fostered via social media. If you're in Omaha, Nebraska, I just picking someplace at random, and you're 17 years old and you're a football player, but you're dealing with anxiety and depression, you can go onto Twitter or on Instagram or TikTok and find a bunch of other people that may not be in your exact location, but are in your exact age range, going through exactly what you're going through, or going through something very similar to what you're going through. I guess everybody's situation is unique. So I think social media from that end is really good. It is normalized so much. And I don't think, whether it's acceptance of people who are trans or non-binary, whether it's the growing acceptance of polyamory, whether it's the slow normalization of getting help for mental health issues, specifically with Black and brown men, I think none of that would have happened, or it certainly would not have happened as rapidly if not for social media. On the other hand, Elon Musk now owns Twitter. So
yeah, exactly.
What fresh hell have we wrought?
Yeah, no, seriously. And I think I agree with you that especially if you are from a small town or something like that, where you feel at least like you're the only one of whatever who's going through whatever. And then you go on to social media. Listen, lesbian TikTok saved me when I was coming out.
Right on. Shout out to lesbian TikTok.
I was a big fan. But it does. It kind of, it opens up your world and you realize, okay, there's a community. However, I always say you have to, if it's kind of your choice if you use it for good or evil, in the sense that you can find really good, supportive stuff online. But you can also find whatever it is. You can find horrible. I mean, there's a lot of the toxic male alpha, terrifying stuff on there,
Mm-hmm.
especially TikTok. It's horrifying. And if you want to find it, if you're angry about anything, you want to find someone going, you're right, you have a right to be angry, and here are more, you can find it. And I think that's where the danger is. But anyone who is struggling with something and they find themselves, like I would say, whatever your fault, I don't care if you're friends, I don't care if it's groups where you know people. If something makes you feel bad about yourself on social media, stop following. You don't owe anybody that. But look for the good stuff, because it is there. It's just so easy. It's also very, very easy with the way the news is to feel like there's only the bad stuff, because that could just be coming on your feed and you're just seeing, and if seeing, listen, I can't tell you, yes, I'm rainbows and sunshine, but at least 5 times daily, I'll say, I hate people, or this world sucks. Like it's a tough place. So, because sometimes all you see is that, so you have to really be careful, and like sometimes you really have to seek out the good stuff, but it is there.
Yeah.
Which is, in the past, we didn't have that. So if you were a kid in a small town and you felt like you were the only gay kid, that's horribly isolating.
Yeah, you were probably fire and brimstone until you were able to join a theater program or go to college. Then you've already got
Right.
16, 17, 18, 19 years of baggage that you have to sort out at that point. Think that, and you're absolutely on point about social media. I think, unfortunately, the bad stuff gets thrown at you without you looking for it. You have to actually make an effort to search for the good stuff. But there is so much good stuff out there. And some of it can be really affirming and just really enlightening for folks who are going through a tough time and might be looking for either an outlet or, again, somebody to model that behavior that can be like, oh, I went to therapy and I don't want to be sunshine and rainbows. Like, I went to therapy and it changed my life, because that does happen for some people. I don't think that happens for everybody or even most people. I think that I go to therapy and I'm still working at it, and some days are great and some days are not great, but I'm pushing forward. I think even that message is super important to hear.
Funny, there's a quote that says, people who go to therapy go because of the people in their life who won't go to therapy.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
and I think what's important, I've gone on and off, and I think what's really important to anyone who's considering it is also, and I'm sure you encountered this as a mental health coach, is you could go see someone and they could be terrible for you, but it doesn't mean that therapy is bad. It just means that wasn't a good fit, and to really keep looking, because I remember years and years and years ago, especially when I was battling my eating disorder, I saw some horrible people, like really bad, but for some reason I kept looking, thank goodness, because then I found good people. But it could be it could be such a challenge to get people to talk to anybody the first time. And then if they meet somebody and it doesn't feel good, they could say, well, therapy sucks. And it's important to know that the therapy with the wrong therapist sucks.
Yes.
But there's so much different, there's so many different kinds of therapy that you can find out too. So if the traditional one doesn't work for you, there are other ways, and your mental health is worth the work it takes to find the right fit.
It really is. And just to correct you, I'm actually not a coach. I am a mental health advocate, not a coach. I would like to be a coach someday. So that's something that maybe a year from now, we'll be able to add that to the podcast. But I actually am having an experience currently where the therapist that I had left his practice. He was really good. So I got another therapist and got a couple of sessions in and was like, this might not be working the way that I was hoping for it to work. And it is discouraging. And it sucks to have to start from scratch again and tell your story and whatever. But when therapy is good, it is really good.
I think that your best friends can really want to be there for you, but we all have our own shit, and it could be really, really hard. It could be very draining on the person who's trying to help, or sometimes they're depleted themselves and they can't. So I think I wish it was so much easier for people to just say, I'm not doing great. And we do see that more. We absolutely do see that more on social media. But there really still is too much of that. You woke up today, so be happy for another day. Or, oh my God, if I ever post that, I've lost it.
Me too.
But I think that with everything, we need to create an environment where people are comfortable talking. And I think the more of us who are doing it, right, who have been through it, where we felt we had to hide who we were, where we felt that we were going to be ostracized, where we felt that we had to shrink, the more that we can talk. Because I think, and I say this often, but the fear of what's going to happen is so much worse than what actually happens, right? We're so afraid that people will see who we really are and just be appalled. And oh my God, there's so many people, like I said earlier, who are going to be like, oh my God, me too. Or you'll come at them with, tell you I did this big horrible thing or this horrible thing about me. And they're like, what? That's it? You get what? That's all you got? Like,
right.
But in our heads, and I think going back to what you said with suicide, I think that's what happens too. It's just, it seems like whatever the person's struggling with, it's so huge. It's so huge. They can't carry it anymore. And it's chances are it's not that huge. I mean, everything is sort of solvable, or at least you can be helped. Somebody can help lift the load. If you can't get rid of it, at least you can have people who are going to help lift. And I do appreciate that with Detoxicity, your podcast, that you do say exactly what you said in the tagline, that it's for men, by men, for everyone. Right? Say it again, say it properly, because I screwed it
up. Oh crap. I forgot it now. It's like, it's about men, by men, for everyone.
Okay. Yeah. Now, are there certain themes that come up often?
There are. I think one thing that comes up just on a regular basis is mental health, and people dealing with depression or anxiety, or a lot of people are trauma survivors and survived abuse or something to that effect. And just the whole stigma behind getting help, I think, is a common theme. A lot of my guests were bullied. I think kids are cruel, and I don't think a lot of us realize how much the cruelty that we experience from our peers at a young age actually continues to affect us through adulthood. So I think that's been an ongoing theme. Sexual exploration. So a lot of guys on my podcast, and I don't specifically seek these people out, a lot of guys are questioning their sexuality or coming to terms with the fluidity of their sexuality. That comes up fairly often. Growing up in society that was like, gay is bad, don't be gay, and sort of realizing that there are plenty of people out there who identify publicly as straight, but, and might be in heteronormative relationships, but are not as heterosexual as they may present or even believe themselves.
Absolutely. And I also think when you talk about trauma, what comes to my mind is there are so many different degrees of trauma. And I think what our society does too, though, is we do this thing where somebody's going through something and we might say, yeah, but so-and-so has it worse, or at least you don't this kind of thing. And I think that's doing such a disservice. I mean, I've been through a ton of trauma, and I know that there have been times when, for example, I'll have friends who will say to me, like when I lost my mother and my brother and baby, and we went through some stuff. And I remember somebody was upset with me not upset with me. They were upset and talking to me about their dog that had died. And then they were like, oh my God, I can't say that to you. And I'm like, of course you can. That's a huge loss. And we're not comparing traumas. We're not comparing losses. Your loss is huge. And so I feel that even there was somebody who I got into a bit of a debate with on Facebook about sort of relationships and how you shouldn't leave a relationship unless there's physical abuse or any kind of abuse. And I'm like, what if you're just not happy anymore?
Yeah.
When it's okay to leave if it's just not working, if you're just not happy. But that's the thing. It's not that bad. I think that's what an unfortunate message that we give everybody often when they're going through something. It's not that bad. It could be worse. And it's like, yeah, but it could be better. And I'd like it to be better. And I think oftentimes when people do diminish what someone else is going through, it's because they're uncomfortable with it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? Like I'm uncomfortable with your pain, so I'm going to try to diminish your pain. So hopefully you'll be like, oh, you're right, Marcy. I'm fine. So then I can feel fine. But if you're like, no, this is really bad, then, oh God, then it's work for me.
Right.
And
Right.
so
You're
I think
absolutely
our
right.
society, we have a hard time with trauma. We have a hard time with other people's pain. We have a hard time with that. And I think that's a problem too. It really is this, God, this is something I say all the time, but it's like society is always like, just be you and be real and be authentic. But it's like, but not if it makes me uncomfortable.
Right.
You
They don't
know,
want to
and
handle what it really means to be real. And you're right. We didn't all roll off the same assembly line with the same amount of emotional bandwidth. We all react to things that happen to us or to other people differently. So, some people with grief, some people compartmentalize it. Some people are very vocal about it. Some
Mhm.
people are just naturally kind of stone faced. And it doesn't mean that one person's super dramatic and one person's like problematically stoic. It just means that they're
Right.
both, we are all unique beings, like internally and externally. We all deal with things differently. The important thing is that we deal with these things in a way that works for us.
And honestly, this is the way I feel too. I think if you're somebody who's listening and you have friends that are in trouble, and you can't deal with it, I think it's okay to say, I hear what you're saying. Your feelings are valid, and I wish I could help. I'm just not in a place to do that. I think that is so much better than avoiding the situation, because then it makes the other person feel like, oh God, see, I shouldn't have said anything. See, there's something wrong with me. I'm too much. Or yeah, I think it's so important to be honest, because then you're putting it. You're also being honest, and you're validating what the person's feeling, what your friend is feeling, but you're being honest with what you can handle and how
Right.
much you can do. And I think that that's a good way to do it, instead of, again, just trying but not being able to, and giving the wrong message to your friend that, oh, you shouldn't have come to me.
Right.
You
Yeah.
know?
I think we're quick as a society to just sort of brush off most things. And I think we collectively need to do a better job listening. I was talking to somebody a while back and they brought up the idea of, I think it was actually someone that is not American. And they're like, when you folks ask, how are you? You don't really mean, how are you? Do you? You're just, because if I was to actually tell you how I was, like, you might regret asking me that question. So we're kind of taught to have these did answers before we even get the answer from the person we're asking the question of. And anything that challenges that, like if I ask someone how they are and they don't say fine, like all of a sudden it's like, oh shit, like that's not what I was expecting. Like what are you doing? What's going on here? Yeah. So it's just really interesting how we are taught to react to one another on an interpersonal level.
It's funny you say that, because it reminds me so much of what I remember going out with my kids when they were little. They're older now, but when they were little, and going to stores, and how many times they get frustrated with me, because I would be going to the store and I could so remember somebody at the cash saying, "How are you? How are you today?" And I'd be like, all right." And my kids are like, "Just say you're fine." That's all I want to hear is you're fine. And I'm like, I'm tired, or it's been a day. Like, I would just be honest. And my kids are like, they don't care. And I'm like, but they asked me, and so I'm going to answer.
Yep.
Because
Yep.
sometimes it takes more energy to fake it and you asked, so sorry, now you got to deal with my answer. Like,
Yep.
that's
Yeah,
on
really.
you.
If you don't want a real answer, don't ask a real question.
Yes, shouldn't have asked. Exactly. So let me ask you this, because I can
Sure.
be here forever, but I'm not gonna. So if somebody feels like they're struggling with something, what is the first step? Because it's very hard to pick up the phone and call, or not even before that. How do you even find someone? So what would you suggest is the first step for somebody who's just struggling with something? Maybe they feel they don't have a huge support group. What do you do in that case?
I think there are a million options. I think talking to someone should kind of always be the first course of action. Now, who that someone is may depend on what your situation is. It could be a friend. If you really trust somebody and you know that they'll potentially protect your confidence if they need to, talk to a friend or a family member. Talk to if you're, well, not even necessarily if you're young, talk to a teacher or a mentor or somebody, somebody that you consider to be like a trusted elder in some way. There are lots of places where you can find therapy. And since COVID, there are a
Mm,
lot of options like BetterHelp where you can have a video therapist or a text therapist, or it's come a long way from the typical image of, I don't know, Fraser Crane 35 years ago, laying
right.
people on the couch.
On the
And
couch.
yeah, yeah. It's not Dr. Katz anymore. So therapy has changed in a lot of ways and it is available. And in some cases, it is maybe not cost effective,
Yeah.
but
That's the biggest. Oh, that makes me the angriest. I have to say
yeah,
it could be super expensive, but
yes,
there are different options.
there are options. Psychology Today has been a huge help for me. You go to psychologytoday.com, you type in where you live, and it will pull up all of the people who
Mm,
practice in your area, and you can filter it down by your insurance type. If you have insurance, you can filter down to whether you want a male or female therapist or a non-binary therapist.
wow.
You can, if you know, if you're really deep in the weeds, you can filter by what kind of therapy they practice or
Mm,
what their modality is. There are answers for you, and don't give up. Like, don't
that's
give up.
huge.
Yeah. I mean, there are a lot of reasons to give up. I feel like giving up sometimes, but don't give up because there are people out there, there are institutions out there that can and will help.
And I think if there's another huge message to come out of this, and there've been a lot of great ones, Mike, thank you.
Of
But
course.
I think one really good thing is whatever, I don't care, whoever's listening to this, I don't care what it is that you're going through. I guarantee you are not the only person. I guarantee that you are by far not the only person. I guarantee that there are other people who have way more stuff that they're dealing with. But whatever you are dealing with, you are not alone with that. And there are people who have been through exactly what you're going through who have come out the other side.
Right.
And that is
Absolutely.
so important because sometimes, and I've been there too, there are times when you're in the thick of it and you feel like I am never getting out of this. But even when you don't see the light, it's there. We just can't see it. Like our eyes are closed and you just need someone to be there and say, I got your hand,
Right.
open your eyes.
You can't see it at that moment. At
Right.
another moment, hopefully you do see it. I mean, I look at it like this 20 years ago, 15 years ago, when I was in the closet about all of the various things that I am, I look around my apartment now and I've got a big award on my bookshelf that I got for joining forces with a mental health organization and speaking to people and being open about my mental health struggles. I look above me and I have a plaque that commemorates me being in Billboard magazine as a Pride power player. So
Wow.
having mental health issues and being queer, two things that I was absolutely scared of being upfront about, have brought me actually some of the most important and biggest successes of my life.
And nobody could have convinced you that that was going to be possible
Yeah, no,
when
not
you
at
were
all.
no.
Not at
And it's
all.
funny because with me too, I mean, the things that I was terrified of coming up, the things I kept hidden for decades, and then I wrote a book about it and put them on the book and let it out. I'm talking about it on my podcast. There's nothing I won't say. And who would have thought? Nobody could have told me that, but you got to hang in there
Yeah. The
to
world
see
is
that
full of
happen.
surprises.
It really, if anything in the last few years, if we've learned anything, it's you just don't know what's
You
going to be.
don't.
You don't,
Mm-mm.
and that could be scary, but it could be fantastic, and that's worth sticking around for. Okay, so tell us
Absolutely.
again, Detoxicity, and where do you find it?
Everywhere that there are podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, you name it, any place you can find podcasts, you can find it there. The native page is detoxpod.podbean.com. But again, just type in Detoxicity Podcast and it is literally everywhere you find podcasts.
Perfect, and we'll put that in our show notes.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Mike. This
Thank
was a
you,
fun
Marcy.
conversation and an
Yes.
important conversation, and I appreciate you chatting with me.
Likewise. Thank you very much.
All right, well, take care.
You do the same. Have a great holiday.
You too.
All right.
Bye.
Thanks. Bye.
Take care. Bye.